Hi everyone, I'm Mike Damergis, and welcome to another edition of Bench Jockeys. With me, to my right, are my co-hosts, Mike and Steve Gonzalez. Welcome aboard, guys. Now, Steve, since we last spoke, you started writing for a paper called the Boston Sports Report, and you also are doing some writing. You're actually publishing your own sports newsletter, something we'll get into a little later on in the show. But how's it feel going from being a fan to all of a sudden you're a reporter meeting all the players and everything?
It's great, Mike. First of all, I get to voice my opinion. You know, before I'm just a fan talking to my friends and my family. Now I'm actually putting my thoughts down on paper, and other people are reading them. They also write in and tell me how I'm doing.
Mike, some years ago you were a cameraman for Cable 3 Sports. Did you think, when being a fan and then actually working in the games, there's a difference, I know?
The best part was being able to run third or Mulcahy center and not get yelled at. We had access to everything. It was a lot of work. We're putting down cables constantly in the beginning, and everything was duct tape this, duct tape that, and a lot of preparation, but it is a lot of fun. The only thing is you really don't watch the game that much.
The glamour's out of the...
Yeah, because you have somebody yelling at you constantly in your ear to get this shot, you missed that shot, cue this guy up, don't miss that, make sure you get that. So you're really concentrating the entire game.
Did you ever get involved in the game, though, and just totally forget that you're doing the camera work?
Yeah, which is why I continued my career. Yeah, you do get a little caught up in the game, and sometimes you hear the other cameraman saying, what a player, or, you know, great shot. Or I missed that, and there's panic, or, you know, cover me, or whatever. But it was a lot of fun. But it's a lot of work before and after. I mean, it's an incredible amount of work.
I know my years working with the Giants, doing the production work with the post-game shows. I mean, like you said, I mean, you're being a fan. You're in the car.
You work with who?
I work with Bob Papa.
And Carl Nelson?
Carl Nelson, the whole Giants team, doing their tailgate show. And being a fan all the years, going to the Jet and Giant games and everything, you listen to the post-game show, and you really don't appreciate the hard work that goes into it. Because like you said, you're just running around like a chicken without a head, trying to get everything together, and you don't enjoy the post-game show. Like you say, people tell me, oh, you work for the Giants? That's great. Yeah, but it's just work. I mean, you don't enjoy really working. It's not like you're part of the Giants.
How much of a pain in the neck is Bob Papa, and can Carl Nelson get his voice any lower?
Bob Papa is really a cool guy. He's very calm. When things went wrong, he didn't get crazy like you'd think like a lot of his producer, Paul Patino.
Don't say anything big, you're going to drop names.
No, he just was a little crazy to work with. But Bob Papa was always very cool to work with. I know Carl Banks. I used to record the Carl Banks report. Carl was a very nice guy to work for, you know, big superstar. He was always a gentleman. And Carl Nelson, well, the story behind him is beating cancer, and basically he's there as an inspiration for everybody to listen to, and that's why he's there. But it's like you said, you lose the flavor. I know it's all of a sudden it changes your perspective.
Well, it does, but I'll tell you one thing. As far as being a writer, I went to cover the Bullets Miami Heat game.
Your article was on Michael Adams,
correct? I did an interview on him, and it was great because the seats I got were the best seats I've ever had, right behind the basket. I had a free dinner. I was able to get into the locker room and talk to the players.
How about the other reporters? How was the report with the other reporters?
That was one of the best parts about it, too, was talking to the other reporters. I got a chance to see their views and you know, what they thought about things that I thought one way, they thought another way. I thought it was great. Just hearing different views back and forth on sports, it was fantastic. That was probably the best time I've had so far as a reporter.
And in the press room.
Oh, the press room, like I said, free lunch, free dinner.
Oh, wait. Media people are known for being scavengers. They love anything free. Free food, they're there.
Well, the guys next to me had 2 or 3 sandwiches, so I mean, it speaks for themselves. Yeah. They just took it all in.
Some guys at WNAW, which will remain nameless, used to enter softball games, charity softball games. Used to take food home with them. I guess their wives didn't cook or they weren't married or like that. But how did Michael Adams treat you as a rookie reporter? Did he sense you were new at it, fresh?
I got a feeling that he felt because I wasn't a big-name reporter coming from a big-name paper, that he kind of gave me the brush off. It was almost he was doing me a favor. It kind of intimidated me at first, but after a while I just said, hey, this is a business, and I'm going to treat him just as a business partner. You know, talk to him, get the answers I need, and go on.
How would you change it, though? I mean, the next time, if you did get an interview, if you ever did, if you ever were lucky enough to get another interview with an athlete, would you go in there with...
Well, funny you should say that, because I had plans on interviewing Rod Langway of the Washington Capitals, and he just retired.
It's an incredibly lucky story.
Yeah. It's amazing. But anyway, how would I change it? I would just, you know, go in more of not be as intimidated. I was a little intimidated at first. I got to be honest with you, because, you know, these are the guys I see on TV that I basically not looked up to, but, you know, I was in awe of their talent. Not anymore. I mean, now it's just basically, especially Michael Adams, who's about 5'8". I tower over him. I wouldn't be as in awe as I was of somebody like him.
But you see the Bobby Knight press conferences, he always has something smart to say. Were you afraid that Michael Adams was just going to say, that's it, over? I mean, was it like that close to him just saying, like, this is really not working out?
That was my biggest fear, was him just walking away in the middle of a question, possibly my third question, just leaving and saying, I've had enough, I got to go tape my ankles or whatever, and leaving me just with a blank stare on my face and an empty pad.
What would be the chances of someone starting out in the business getting an interview with a Michael Jordan in the NBA? Is it almost impossible?
There has to be a great chance of that happening, right?
It would be very tough. I mean, personally, I took Michael Adams because I felt he wasn't a very big star. He isn't a very big star right now, and I had a better chance of interviewing someone lesser on the totem pole than Michael Jordan. I mean, I was talking to the Bullets at the time, so...
Three-point champ.
Yeah, he is a three-point champ, but
there you go.
He's not as popular as, let's say, a Michael Jordan, or on the Bullets would be a Purvis Ellison or a Harvey Grant.
Now, did the paper set up the press pass for you to get into the stadium?
I did that all myself. I made all the contacts with Jim Delaney, who works for the Washington Bullets as the PR director. I did the phone calls. I just put him in touch with my editor at the Boston Sports Report so that they could go back and forth to make sure that it was legit.
So not any psycho with a note and a pen. You can walk in a notepad and a pen.
Yourself, right?
Like myself.
And a little tag that says press on it.
Okay.
Also, when you spoke to the other sports reporters, did you get a feeling, I'm trying to try and compare basketball and baseball because they're both at opposite ends of the spectrum right now. What's basketball doing that if they're in the public likes and they appreciate it, that money's not the main topic,
well,
it's baseball?
Let me just get back to one thing I thought you were going to touch on, was as far as how did they feel, the veteran reporters feel about interviewing named sports personalities. And they felt like I felt that at first it's going to be tough because you're from a rookie paper, basically, you know, or you're a rookie reporter and you don't have the names that some of these other reporters have. So it's going to be tough to break in right away, but just keep at it. And eventually they'll get to know you. Because there was one guy from the Post, the Washington Post, he had his arm around Harvey Grant. I mean, they were best buddies. But because I didn't have that rapport yet, it was very tough for me.
What was the one thing that stood out in their advice to the older reporters to you?
Just keep at it and just keep plugging away and keep going to the games and just, you know, keep writing. That's basically just keep writing.
One thing, there was a perception because you were a writer that you were important. I mean, weren't there some cable guys there?
Oh, right. I mean, there were some cable guys from a local cable show that thought I was, you know, oh, Boston Sports Report, you just flew in from Boston, this is great, blah, blah, blah. And basically I just said, that's nothing. You know, brush it off.
And they couldn't be more wrong. I mean, he's any important.
Okay, moving along to baseball, what I touched on earlier, like we were saying at basketball, they've done a fantastic marketing job. You talk about basketball players, Michael Jordan, their contracts, isn't always at the front of the headlines. Meanwhile, baseball, we know the trouble they're having. Last year was the first time in 4 years that an attendance record wasn't broken. There's no commissioner to speak of. Bill White wants to resign as National League Commissioner. CBS, ESPN, they can't wait till the contracts are over with baseball. I mean, what can they do, really? I mean, where's baseball going at this point?
Jumping on that?
They need a lot of help with their marketing. You compare the NBA, I think they're probably the best run organization in sports. Baseball is slowly but surely catching up with hockey as the worst run. And yeah,
the Mighty Ducks.
That's what they need. They need a team named the Mighty Ducks in baseball.
By the way, this team in Anaheim wants to be called the Mighty Ducks. That's why I mentioned
it. They don't want to be. They are.
That's for the National Hockey League for the folks at home.
Yeah. But I think the biggest problem for baseball right now is that the game isn't played on the field anymore. The news is made off the field, and that has been a trend for the past 10 years.
At least.
But I think it's finally caught up with the fans. And I don't think it's just a small pocket of fans that are disgusted with Ricky Henderson not being able to make it on 3.5, especially now.
Tough times are tough. People are out of work.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And I think they would do well if they could somehow, I mean, salaries are going to skyrocket. But they would do well if they
higher?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, if ESPN is exercising their buyout, they're not going to be part of the baseball television package next year. CBS desperately wants to get out of the contract, and a lot of the revenue a lot of the salaries have increased due to the television revenue.
Yeah, let me just point out one thing. Barry Bonds is going to make $7 million.
Not enough. Not enough.
All right?
Not
20 years ago.
Not enough.
20 years ago in 1973, George Steinbrenner bought the Yankees for, you know how much? $10 million. Talking about 20 years later, a whole team, of course, what one guy's getting for 1 year.
It's out of control. And I think for the fans to feel some sort of identification, they're going to make the money, just don't publicize it as much. If they have a gripe, don't play it in the paper. Don't go to the paper. Try and have some sort of gag rule with these players so that money isn't the most important thing every time you pick up the paper.
What bothers me, though, I mean, that has to do with the money, is the fact that these players are jumping from team to team.
You don't know every year.
You never know where they're going to go.
Where? Jack Morris.
Perfect example. I was going to bring
He
it up.
stayed in Toronto this year.
Yeah, 2 years in a row. That's a record for him.
It is.
I mean, he's with Detroit for 10 years, I think it is, maybe 11 or 12.
7 years.
One of the best pitchers for the 80s in the American League. He wants to go home, help Minnesota out.
So he's there 1 year.
They win the World Series, then he wants to leave.
Home move. The home office move.
He had an aunt in Toronto that nobody knew about that he wanted to go visit.
It's dollars the bottom thing there. That's exactly it. I mean,
Look at Paul Molitor. Paul Molitor,
all those years in Milwaukee.
all those years, the catalyst of last year's team. They had a great team last year. He's gone. Now he's with Toronto.
I find interesting what baseball's doing. When I first started following baseball, late 60s, early 70s,
Right.
they went to expansion, changed the uniform colors, and everybody seemingly got a new ballpark.
Okay. And this year.
Where are we going now? Same thing. Uniforms are going back to the old traditional style uniform.
Right.
Which is a great look.
Sure.
Stadiums, you got Toronto has a new stadium within the past 5 years, Chicago, Baltimore, Camden Yards, Cleveland's getting one,
Detroit,
Texas is definitely getting one, Detroit. So it's sort of like they can't make the package on the field any better, but we'll put a different wrapping on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, put a dress on a pig, it's still a pig. The game is just not.
It's lost its tradition. And talk about losing the tradition. I know you're going to hate this term, realign.
Oh, please.
They want to set up 3 divisions in each league, the American National League, 1 wild card.
A mighty duck division. A mighty duck division.
And have interleague play.
That's great.
Will it work?
And I tell you, give them more money.
Interleague play will work.
I hate it. I hate wild card teams, I hate realignment, and I hate interleague play.
Okay.
That's a fact, though. Are they going to expand again? I think New Rochelle's getting a team in 2 years.
Yes, New Rochelle is getting a team in 2 years.
I mean, they're going to have so many teams to keep it interesting. You're going to have realignment. Because, I mean, you have some teams eliminated by July, realistically.
Yeah.
They're going to be all right. Maybe some teams by April.
Any sport, yeah.
It's not hockey. I think all the teams make it except for one, and they clean out the rink, I think.
That takes away the essence of baseball. American League, National League. 1 division winner in the East, 1 division winner in the West, both ways. I mean, they want to keep the tradition by bringing back the old jerseys, but
They want to start with wild cards, they want to start with
interleague play.
I think it's just a money-making scheme.
God forbid they decide to use that designated hitter rule, though. God forbid. I think the change is good. I think that it would be stupid just to say that it won't work, because I think the DH is good for baseball, and I know a lot of people back in '73 when it started were adamantly opposed to it, again on the lines of tradition. Baseball has to do something. If the product on the field isn't going to improve, and now with more teams, you're going to see lesser talent making the major clubs. They're going to have to do something to get fan interest back. And as much as they're going to break the tradition, I mean, also in 1969, you went to the 2 divisions within the league.
Right.
That's something that they hadn't done before, and that seemingly worked.
So let me ask you a question. Let's talk about expansion. Is there enough pitching
That's
to go around now?
No way.
Well, you were contacted yesterday.
Yes.
Right? I'm still waiting for my call, so I think, yeah, sure.
Okay. Baseball, we know, is in trouble, but you talk about bringing it back to the fans. How about how can I not talk about March Madness, the NCAA?
Well, obviously, you want to know about my picks.
I mean, is that something else or what? Even if you're not a big fan, you gotta love it.
That to me is one event that, my picks.
Bring up the picks.
That to me is one event that really, it brings together all the sports fans during a
This
couple
will be
weeks of
timely. By the time the show is aired, this will be very
So we
timely.
can show how wrong you really were.
Yeah.
Well, I made 12 of my Sweet 16 are still available.
What?
12 of my Sweet 16
That CD you tape is still available.
So, who do you like?
Well, I have in the Final Four, I have Michigan, Indiana, North Carolina, and Seton Hall.
St. John's. Did they go farther than you thought they go?
I will give you my picks till after the show, Mike. That's okay.
Well, we know that because you're wrong anyway.
Thank you very much.
Sean, I'd like to hear. Mike, what are your picks?
I have Michigan, I have Indiana, North Carolina, and Florida State. And I have Michigan winning everything. And they, after their scare with UCLA, are primed to go all the way. Convinced more than ever. Absolutely.
See, I have Michigan getting into the final game, but I have North Carolina and Dean Smith winning the championship.
You're going to look so sorry and so stupid when this airs.
I think St. John's is going to be resurrected and they're going to come back and...
Yeah, they're going to get a bye and come back into the final 16.
They went farther than I thought they would go, and a lot of other people did. And actually, they had the Razorbacks beat.
They did by 10, but
by 10, 9 minutes to
I have to admit, I watched the game with my brother, and I'm going to tell you exactly what he said when they were up by, when St. John's was up by 10, he said the Razorbacks have them right where they want them.
I would say no Mel, but we're not going to get any help.
He did say that. I got to admit, that's the one pick he had right, was the fact that he said the Razorbacks, when they were down by 10, they had St. John's right where they wanted.
They were tired, and Arkansas was just relentless. And you can see that Kane was getting tired, you know, not to go back on the game because it's pretty pointless now, but it was, I think they went further than I thought. When they lost to Fordham, was it the first week or second week of the season?
I think it was the third week.
And then everybody wanted Mahoney scalp, and he's taking over for Louis. So the fact that they made the NCAA so be stronger next year, I'm surprised with Seton Hall.
Seton Hall, early exit.
Well, actually, I'm not incredibly surprised. I didn't have the Final Four.
I picked them Final Four. I know there were some other guys out there, some other announcers that picked them Final Four. Even a couple picked them to win the championship. I was really shocked. I thought they had a slump in the middle of the season, but they peaked at the end. Going to the Big East tournament, they were really strong. The hair was really playing well. And that was a shock that they got beaten by Western Kentucky. But that's the beauty of this whole tournament. Also, that an underdog can come back and win.
NCAA tournament, Bobby Hurley, end of a great college career, huh?
Definitely. Definitely.
I mean, who do you think's going to pick him up in the NBA?
It's tough to tell. I think he'll do best if an established team, of a team that's already on its way up, picks him up, rather than a team that needs resurrection.
Needs a superstar.
Because he's not the type of guy to me that can lead a team unless he has other great ball players around him. I mean, he's been fortunate at Duke to have Leitner, Grant Hill, but when those guys leave, I don't know how good he would have been without a really good supporting cast.
You're not the biggest basketball fan in the world. We can say that. Okay?
He's safe to say.
You can barely spell Duke, but aside from that, does the NCAA tournament, does it get you,
Yes, it does.
Get you involved?
You're very interested. It has excitement that football has lost, that baseball doesn't have. I mean,
Are we not going to catch?
absolutely not. I just feel comfortable with it.
Okay.
We talked about the World Series. People were complaining that it was on until 11:30 at night. People were staying up till 12:30, 1 o'clock watching these tournament games. So it appeals to me.
That's a good question.
I'm sorry.
But if you're a basketball purist, you love what's going on in the NCAA, and you love it for sports in general. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after these messages.
McGruff here with Regina to say users are losers.
You know it's okay to say no. I'm telling you it's true. Learning when to say no.
Say no.
That's what you need to do. Learning how to say no.
Say no.
Can make a winner of you. 'Cause users are losers and losers are users. So don't you trust, don't you trust. Winners don't use and users don't win. So don't you trust, don't you trust. If you know a user even part of the time,
Tell the grip. Take a bite out of crime.
users are losers and losers are users. So don't
You
you
trust.
trust.
And help me take a bite out of crime.
And the reason why Babe Ruth played over 1,000 games in left field, either of you guys know?
I don't know, suntan problem?
Well, we all know that Babe Ruth used to like to drink a lot. So, in order to keep him out of the sun, they moved him from right field to left field. And thereby, he played left field, okay? Before the break, we were talking about the NCAA tournament.
NCAA.
There we go.
6 A's.
Well, I had a question. I want to ask Mike, since he did work behind the camera.
Thank you.
What do you think about the coverage?
I think the
Done
coverage...
by, was it CBS this year?
CBS. I think it's been outstanding. I
A
think...
lot of criticism, though, by FA.
Right. I have another criticism. One of the things that people didn't like was that they played 3 #1 seeds the same night. It was scheduled the same night, and they all ended up as blowouts, and you know, a lot of people took issue with that. I think the coverage has been excellent. Seen a lot of good basketball, maybe too much basketball. The only thing I think they should do is when they're not going to show a game, when they have to go back to local news, the Georgia Tech Southern game wasn't shown, one of the best games and an upset. Let ESPN broadcast it. CBS isn't making any money.
That's a great point.
They're not showing it. And it only went to the local markets where the game was most important. So that's my only gripe with the coverage, but I think it's been fine.
That's an excellent point. I think they should throw a game to ESPN. If they're not going to show it, they're not losing any money. Let them show a game because the tournament's for the fans.
Absolutely.
And let us see. If you have a chance to show every game, show it.
Today, how many sports, though, are really for the fans? I mean, everything is bottom line, the dollar. We talked earlier, too, of the World Series being played at night because that's where the money is. But fans are losing interest. You know, it's not for the fans anymore.
They can make some concessions. I mean, okay, it's true that CBS has a lot of money invested, but there's no reason why they can't share the coverage if they're not going to show the game. That just seems to be common sense. I don't think CBS is going to lose out all that much on a game they're not going to show.
When we talked about the money being the bottom line, this year's Super Bowl, Michael Jackson at halftime, to get everybody interested, to get all the advertisers, and to suck everything you
Do
can.
we have to talk about this?
Well,
I would like to leave one show out without mentioning Michael Jackson's name.
To it.
Randy Jackson. Okay, earlier in the show, we talked about your newsletter that you're writing and publishing. It's called Around the Horn, and if anybody wants to send for it, it only costs you a postcard. And we'll
What's a stamp?
And a stamp, of course. You got a postcard, got a stamp.
29 cents. Might go a long way today.
Send this to Steve Gonzalez Around the Horn. We'll print up the address a little later on. There is a little quote I'd like to take from it, if you don't mind. We're talking earlier about baseball and all the problems they
Just
have.
before you go on with that, I just want to tell you why I really went into writing the newsletter. It's basically because I found that writing for a paper that I had no control of the articles other than the content, the editors used to leave my best stuff on the floor, cut down the article a couple of paragraphs, and I was, after a while, getting a little annoyed. So I figured, why not start writing and publish my own newsletter and put everything I want to put in the newsletter, you know, put it in. And I also do some editorial work, which is something you're going to read right now from the side of the Times.
Right, and I was reading the newsletter.
Show the newsletter. Show
Sure, I
it.
can pick it up.
Show it.
In front of my face.
Okay, that was great. Show the front.
Around the Horn. Stats, Wade Boggs. And the thing you get in this paper that you don't get in other papers is you go into great detail. And for a sports fan, you love it, especially with the sports purists. You go into details about Boggs, you talk about Bill Parcells, and in particular I want to talk about, talking about earlier, baseball, the trouble they're in. And here's a quote from the paper, from Steve Gonzalez himself. Throughout this country's history, we have always found peace and solace in baseball when all else seemed to be in the utter chaos and turmoil. But as money and power have crept into our family circle, the circle seems to be getting smaller and smaller, shutting out those who truly love the game. And that pretty much says it all.
I mean, it goes back to what we talked about earlier about baseball and how I was starting to get away from the tradition. And something I learned from my brother as far as he finds it hard to follow the game anymore. When you have so many $1 million babies making a lot of money and not being satisfied. Changing teams. I mean, just never satisfied when you have other people working very hard just to get by in everyday life.
The unemployment is high as it is.
Exactly.
Making all this money.
Exactly. And I just found that it's really shutting out a lot of people who just want to watch the game, who want to watch their idols, and every day, you know, just go to a ball game. They're finding it tough to just be satisfied with, you know, these guys who are making millions of dollars and still not happy.
Another part of the paper that, if you love stats, you'll love this paper too, you have the top 10 averages from 1950, top 10 batting average from 1950 through 1990. You have four categories, four decades, 1950 through 59, 60 through 69, and so on. Minimum 3,500 at-bats. How'd you come about coming with these stats? Did you look at an encyclopedia?
Well,
what kind of information?
I would have had to look in the baseball encyclopedia.
Right there?
Yeah.
But I ended up investing some money and I bought a mini Franklin baseball encyclopedia computer.
Wait a second.
Item QVC 361.
Wait a second. This, the encyclopedia, this big thing,
Oh, hold on, like this is starting to sound like an infomercial.
okay, has, and this small little thing, Has
All the
systematic
stats in this
information.
encyclopedia are in this computer here.
Well, not really. What this does, punch up, like for instance, if you wanted to know the leading hitter on the 78 Yankees, all he has to do is punch up 1978
Yeah, I think
Yankees.
who that was.
All right, let's see if we can embarrass Mike. Leading hitter.
No.
Okay, but it's a great reference tool. It lacks some of the refinements of the encyclopedia itself as far as when it goes to the player, doesn't give the position, doesn't give fielding averages, but it's an incredible little machine because it has whole rosters. For instance, the way he figured out the batting averages was he was able to lock in during the decade certain players and put a minimum at-bats, and then from there, the computer did all the work and figured out who were the top 10 hitters for the 50s.
Mike, who'd you say it was?
Lou Piniella, 330.
Mike?
Chris Chandler?
You read very well.
Thank you.
Chris Chambliss at 274.
No way.
I go to Lou Piniella. You can get that.
He might not have had enough at-bats. That could have been it.
Oh, that was so then I guess George Zebra was 1 for 1. Out of 1,000.
Are you making fun of me, Jake?
Never,
I didn't think
Mikey. Never.
Lou Piniella batted 240,
330.
314 that year.
Okay, I'm wrong.
314.
That was close.
All right.
That was
I'll
close.
give it to you.
Okay, we're just about out of time, guys. Next week, our main topic's going to be Reggie Jackson, the only Hall of Fame inductee next month.
Because we wouldn't want to disappoint
Mr.
anybody
October,
shooting in the
Reggie
following
Jackson.
week.
Mr. October.
Reggie
By
Jackson.
the way, did you decide on what team's going to have on his plaque?
Well, we're going to be talking about that, I'm sure, ad nauseum next week, but I think it's the Yankees.
It is.
Yeah,
Excellent choice.
I believe so. Okay, we're going to leave you with some vintage video of Reggie Jackson during his heyday with the Oakland A's. From the bench for Steve and Mike Gonzalez, I'm Mike Damergis.